NFL Combine Week is in full swing with drills now just 2 days away in dreary, snowy Indianapolis. We've got all the latest from the main event to the pre-draft process, where there is plenty of NFL news as well. The NFL world is waiting on Aaron Rodgers again, namely in Pittsburgh, where the Steelers continue to say the door is open for their quarterback's return. GM Omar Khan joins the show tonight to talk about Rodgers' future and so much more. The future of Max Crosby is finally clear, unless it's not, despite GM John Spytek's best efforts. So with Spytek saying Mad Max is staying in Vegas, where do things go from here? We'll tell you all we know. Welcome inside with the insiders at the Combine, alongside Ian Rappaport, Judy Batista, and hey, Mike Garafolo. After 2 days of planes, trains, and automobiles.
Some travel issues.
Did your luggage make it this time?
There was a little blizzard. Yeah, luggage made it.
There was a blizzard?
I made it. Let's go. Come on, let's do a show. Let's do a show.
We got 2 hours.
Welcome in
tonight.
Yeah.
Nine different interviews. We've got Nick Sirianni on the show, Zach Taylor, Robert Saleh, the new Dolphins GM John Eric Sullivan. All the news, all the interviews, it's right here. And in 2 days, all the top prospects in the NFL draft set to hit the field. That includes some of those top edge players, including Texas Tech's David Bailey, making his way through the halls of the Indianapolis Convention Center earlier on today. Miami edge Akeem Mesidor in the house, as is Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles, who is going to do all the drills, all the testing, and it sounds like could put on an absolute show. If he does, you know where to find it. It's the NFL Combine presented by Microsoft Copilot. Begins this Thursday, February 26th, with the defensive line and linebackers. Catch it all on NFL Network and streaming with NFL Plus. Subscription required for NFL Plus. Visit plus.nfl.com for terms. Did I mention this is the annual tradition? We stand at the Combine and await exactly where, if anywhere, Aaron Rodgers will be playing football coming up this fall. Rodgers has been in communication with the Steelers, and GM Omar Khan continues to say there is a chance Rodgers is back for a second season in Pittsburgh.
The door's open to have Aaron back. You know, I've had conversations with him. I spoke to him last week. Mike McCarthy spoke to him, and he knows how we feel about him. And it's right now we're proceeding. He's a free agent and he's not on the roster. So, but he knows how we feel about him.
Do you get the sense that he's deciding between retirement or playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or is he also considering some other options like another team?
That's a question for Aaron. I mean, he knows how we feel, and I think we know how he feels about us. It was a good experience for both sides. Unfortunately, we didn't reach our goals on winning the games that we wanted to win at the end, there's a mutual respect there.
Omar, I think gives you the sense that this isn't going to drag out the way that it did last year into right before the start of minicamp.
Yeah, I think the circumstances are a little different, but just conversations we had, I think neither side wants to have this drag on like it did last year.
We know this much. Omar Khan definitely spoke, not just because of the video you saw, but also because people made sure to put their cameras and their phones up in front of our camera to take a bunch of photos that will never see the light of day. Judy, what we don't yet know, will Aaron Rodgers be back for another NFL season? The fact they're communicating, I take as a good sign.
Yeah, I talked to Omar Khan also, which we'll show you more of later on in the show. He reiterated he had recently talked to Aaron Rodgers, so the communication is constant and current. They feel good about where they are. I asked him, is there a deadline? No, there is no deadline, but certainly they do not expect this to go anywhere near as late as it did last year at this time. I said, by free agency? And he said, well, I don't want to put a time limit on it, but certainly they want this done. They expect an answer from him. They feel really good about their position with him.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense. And, where Aaron Rodgers was last year, which was, first of all, taking his decision, obviously, deep into the spring and into the summer, which made it fun for us to talk about it over and over. Wanted to make sure that if he landed somewhere, it was with a team that would potentially have the opportunity to be good, make the playoffs, and go into it that is where he still stands. I mean, knowing Mike McCarthy, not saying it's a given that he's back, but knowing Mike McCarthy, the fact that McCarthy's now the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the fact that he and Rodgers had for a long time a really good relationship definitely increases the possibility that he is back. It just doesn't seem, Tom, like there's as much to consider now if you're Aaron Rodgers as there was last year. Like the locker room, like the organization, good players, chance to win, likes the coach, and certainly knows the offense as well as anything. Positivity seems pretty high.
It does also feel like they're not tiptoeing nearly as much. Like they're not afraid to say. Last year was spook 'em.
Yeah.
You have to know him now. I mean, that's part of it, right?
And the head coach factor as well, I think, is a big part of it too, for sure.
And certainly with Mike McCarthy, it's an offense that Aaron Rodgers knows very well. But some of those things last year, the frustrations we saw at times of Aaron Rodgers, the little things not going right, having an offseason and not showing up in minicamp would probably benefit everybody involved. Because as well as he knows the offense, everybody else is going to have a lot of learning to do on the job. Kirk Cousins, it appears, will have a new home. GM Ian Cunningham confirming the obvious earlier today. Kirk Cousins, based upon the structure of his contract, will be released when the new league year begins on March 11th. Here's a little bit more about what Cunningham had to say about Cousins and, oh, there's no sound. All right, sure.
I'll take it from here, talking about Tua Tagovailoa and his future with the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, still in doubt, I think it's fair to say, with John Eric Sullivan, the Miami Dolphins' new general manager, talking to reporters and saying all options are on the table for Tua Tagovailoa. If they release him, it is a $99 million cap hit. If they keep him, and he has to play for him, which seems like a fresh start would benefit everyone. John Eric Sullivan talked about all of the options with reporters earlier today.
We've had conversations with Tua and his representation. Everything's on the table, including the potential of a trade. We don't know which way that's going to go. There's a lot of different factors at play, a lot of conversations being had. But evaluating the roster, Quinn did a nice job towards the end of the year. Excited about what's ahead for him. Tua, I thought, even though things didn't go well at the end of the year, did some good things along the way. And it's my job to infuse competition into that room along with every other room as we go down the road.
The future of Max Crosby also remains at least somewhat fluid, despite GM John Spytek of the Raiders going to the podium today and being pretty clear that from his perspective, there is no story here regarding his star pass rusher.
Max is an elite player, and I've been very upfront from the start when I got here that we're in the business of having really good players on the team, and we need a lot more of them. And it's hard to build a great team without elite players. Max and I have a great relationship. He's in the building every day, getting healthy right now. We talk on the phone, we text. So I have a great relationship with Max.
Mike, what do you make of it?
Well, John Spytek, general manager, saying that his one of his star players is going to be back in action in 2026. So that'll put a bow on that story. Thank you. Back to you. No, we're not.
No.
It's not. We're not. It's not. It's not.
It is interesting that a general manager takes to the podium in front of 100 people and says a thing, and everyone's like, yeah, but...
Because it's the GM language. It's the, shaded GM language. Expects. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, what it means now is the ball is in Max Crosby's court, right? Does he want to press this at all? I mean, we talked about how things ended last season with him not playing those last couple of games and the thought that he was healthy enough to play or healthy enough to shoot hoops at home and put it on social media. And so some things have to be patched over and some things have to be discussed. And the future, right? I mean, if you're Max Crosby, I remember watching these games last year and saying, I can't believe this guy is playing as hard as he is in games that really are not going to matter when it comes to playoff positioning, at least not from the Raiders' standpoint. So what does he want to do? Because this is going to be another little bit of a reboot. I don't think anybody's picking the Raiders to win the Super Bowl this upcoming season.
What?
Maybe the year after that, we'll see. But this is a great player that just hasn't played in enough meaningful games in his career. And I want to know what he thinks. He's been keeping it a lot to himself, Ian.
No, he's got a podcast. That's a great opportunity for him to speak out. Has not yet spoken out on exactly what he wants, and maybe some of the reason is he doesn't know yet. I mean, the Las Vegas Raiders have not gone through a offseason yet with this new coaching staff and with general manager John Spytek having the ultimate opportunity to shape the team as he wants rather than sort of the win now way or whatever the heck that was with the Raiders last year. So because his injury seems to extend the timeline of a possible trade, at least he is going to see what the Raiders have done in the offseason, and does he feel like this is a team that finally, for real this time, with this staff and with this GM, has a chance to win. If he doesn't, then we're going to see how loud he gets in the spring.
But it has a chance to win when? Like, how fast can that happen? Because the business side of it says that you should trade him when he has maximum value, get those picks, and use those picks to help you rebuild a team. This is a rebuilding team, and it may not be the sort of rebuild that we saw so much in the NFL this year where they just turned it immediately and got to the playoffs. They're going to have a rookie quarterback, we think. They need a lot of pieces. And so to me, you have to look at this. You have to step back and take the emotion out of it and say, it's probably the smart thing to do for the Raiders to trade Max Crosby. It's also probably the best thing for Max Crosby's career.
There's certainly a history in recent years of some of the big blockbuster trades happening in the week between the combine and free agency. If something's going to happen, you would think most likely it would be on that timeline, which also may apply to a certain wide receiver in Philadelphia.
You're talking about A.J. Brown, and last season I had a front row seat for the relationship between Brown and Jalen Hurts. I've made the point that I don't know that these two could coexist for another year. This is a decision, though, that general manager Howie Roseman is going to have to make, along with head coach Nick Sirianni. I'm told the communication has been great. I did ask Sirianni about that. We're going to see that in just a second here. For now, though, the Eagles making it clear that if A.J. Brown is back on the team this upcoming season, that's good. And also, if they get a ransom for him to trade him, then that would be good. The best interest of our team. That's what Howie Roseman said. Here's Nick Sirianni along with your boy. Here's Eagles coach Nick Sirianni. At the end of a long day, he's done a lot of interviews. He did his podium session. And we're going to make this quick because Dom's getting hungry. And that's not just stick. Dom is literally getting hungry over there, and he's talking about dinner, and I don't want to get in the way of that. Can you guarantee me anything? Anything? Or can you not guarantee me anything? Because, just context, in case you're not aware, because, you know, there's a whole Philly media horde that was here again today. The A.J. Brown situation, we came up, and you said, well, I can't guarantee it. Almost as if to say, I can't guarantee anything in life. I think that's what you were driving at. Am I right about that?
Yeah, because I think when you look at the rest of the comments, like, I can't guarantee I'm going to be here tomorrow or be here in this building. So at the end of the day, all seriousness, at the end of the day, I love A.J. Brown. I love the player. I love the person. I love the teammate. And when you get asked a question where it's yes or no, it's like, hey, listen, I can't guarantee anything, but at the end of the day, I love the man, and I love the relationship that we have, all the things that he's done, all the ups and downs that we've had throughout. Man, good player, good teammate, great person.
Here's what I know, here's what I've reported, is that he recently has been in a great headspace, and there's been great communication with the team and him. Do you agree to that? I mean, do you believe that all this communication so far has been good?
Yeah, you know, my expectation is that he wants to be here, and we want him here. And man, again, like I said, you know, Howie said this in an interview not too long ago. He's like, it's hard to get good players. We want as many good players as we possibly can have on the team, especially a guy who's a teammate and a person like AJ is.
You've got good players. You had a good record this year. I mean, you won a lot of games. Did you have to take a step back at some point and assess it and say, there was a lot of good in this season?
You know, only one team at the end of the year is happy. Really, at the end of the day, right? Everybody else, everyone's chasing it. And one team's happy. You know, but obviously you look back at things and you look at the things that you want to do better at. But you also look at the good. Like, we're the only team that was, out of everybody, this speaks to the parity that the NFL has and is there was one team that won back-to-back divisions, and it was the Philadelphia Eagles. It was the first time that happened in the NFC East, which is pretty cool because it's such a competitive league and such a competitive conference. And so, of course, you know, we have 2,000-yard receivers. You know, we have a 1,000-yard running back. We have a defense that played lights out. And so there's positives throughout. But ultimately, when you don't reach, especially when you've been on a team the year before of winning it all, when you don't reach that, it's hard. You know, it makes it hard, and it makes you hungry and makes you want more. But we all are a product of the adversities that we go through, and you can use that, and we intend to moving forward.
You talked about the things you want to do better. Give yourself your own exit interview. What would you want to do better? What's the biggest lesson of 25, I guess?
Yeah, you're still going through that, and there's always, at the end of each year, there's always lessons to be learned. I think that it was really important that we did some things as far as our offense didn't succeed the way we wanted it to succeed this year. So there's change in store, and that's the nature of this business. And so looking forward to all the things that we can change and mix into some of the things that we've done well, and seeing what the new version of this offense is to be. But you're always constantly trying to do the little things better, right? The detail, the togetherness as a football team. Every goal of every year is to see if you can bring a group of guys together, become a team, leave selfish ambitions aside, and become a team. And that's the goal every single year as you go through this. And so look forward to that challenge as we continue this again.
Sean Mannion, your new offensive coordinator. I don't know if it was you or Howie when you were speaking to the media back in Philadelphia, mentioned that during his interview process he had cut-ups of stuff that Jalen had done and said, hey, he's already done some of the stuff that I want to do. Is that usual for an OC interview to have that stuff ready to go?
I think the ones that you go through it and the ones you end up hiring, that's there were so many things that made us say, hey, Sean is the right guy for this job. And, going to Jalen and saying, hey, Jalen's done such a good job in some of the things that, Sean's vision of the offense is. Like, Jalen's been really good at play action pass. And being able to do that with a run game that we hope to have and mix that, we know Jalen's really good at that. And so, I think that's a great way. We're all visual. We want to be able to see it, and Sean did a good job of portraying his vision, not only through words and discussions through an interview portion of it, but also through his vision of what it looks like on tape. And I think that brings it to life sometimes. And Sean certainly did a good job of that through his interview process.
Last one for you, in a word, getting Lane Johnson back for 2026 means what? When you found out about it?
Man, Lane's one of the best players in the NFL, not just, going into the 26th season, but of all time. And, just same thing, good football players are hard to find. You want as many of them on your team as possible, especially a guy who's like Lane. And, as far as the teammate is, as far as the, worker that he is, all those different things. And so, pumped to have him back in the fold, and looking forward to what this year brings.
Nick Sirianni, defending NFC East champion head coach once again. See how we highlighted that for you? All right, table for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dom's ready to go. Get him a cannoli. He can't find a cannoli in Indianapolis, he told me. Get him one. Get him a decent one. There's got to be one.
We'll work on it.
In the city. All right. Appreciate it.
Tons more to come on this 2-hour edition of the Insiders at the Combine, including the new guy coaching. That guy, Cam Ward, one of the most ridiculous touchdown passes of the entire season right there. Robert Saleh, now the head man in charge. He's going to join us on the show. But coming up after this is a certain GM who has some choice words for anybody who thinks he's trading his quarterback. How do you really feel, Texas GM Nick Caserio? CJ's trying to have better moments than these. We'll talk to Caserio about it right after this. It is the Insiders at the Combine.
Lamar, he's the most electrifying athlete in this draft. Some people around the league are saying, oh, he's a wide receiver. I think he's a quarterback. It starts with what he does with his legs.
The challenge will be, who's the head coach who wants to work with this kind of kid?
That looked effortless and went about 50, 60 yards.
He's just a gamer.
And he's going to be a first-round quarterback and a starting quarterback and a guy that's going to take us to the next level with running and throwing quarterbacks in the NFL.
8 years and 2 NFL MVPs later, Lamar Jackson now up for a third contract with the Ravens. GM Eric DeCosta had said earlier in the offseason he hoped to have it in place before free agency. Where do we stand, Eric?
Lamar and I have an agreement. We handle business kind of in-house internally, as you all know. That worked well for us the last time, and we will continue to have that policy moving forward. Have spoken to Lamar about a lot of different things over the last month. He's been very engaged. As I said, he was a big value to us in the coaching search. But we'll continue those conversations moving forward.
Eric, last time you guys went through a negotiation, obviously you spoke about how challenging it was and so forth, different now. But are you confident that you'll be able to work something out, whether that's an extension, whether that's reworking the current deal.
I am. I definitely am.
Welcome back to the Insiders at the Combine. Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, Mike Garafolo, Judy Batista. Mike, we've heard Eric DeCosta use similar language at times in the past here. It's not like he's going into a contract year. They clearly want to reward him, get ahead of the market. Where do things stand right now?
Get ahead of the market and manage the salary cap implications for the next couple of years. That's a big part of it. And that last question there was a good question because the two sides have had the experience before, and that's part of the optimism on this one from my sense. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a slam dunk, but Lamar Jackson, having done this already and having been his own agent and having gone through the process once before, certainly gives him a blueprint and gives them a blueprint for the understanding of how it's going to work and how the communication is going to be, Judy.
The best possible scenario is they get this done in the next, week or so, because that would lower the salary cap number, and that would obviously help them throughout the rest of free agency, throughout the rest of the season. Steve Bisciotti has made it clear that if they can't get an extension done, that they would simply restructure the contract, which is obviously not as ideal a solution, but it is some sort of patchwork solution. In any event, it's needless to say, Lamar Jackson is going absolutely nowhere except right back to Baltimore.
It's going to be really interesting to see where this one comes in. Does it hit the 60? Is it more like the Josh Allen of 55? Where does this come in for Lamar Jackson? And you're right, the timing is important here because they have a couple big free agents that they would like to bring back. Isaiah Likely, we'll see if he's actually back. Tyler Linderbaum, maybe the best center in free agency, could eclipse $20 million on his deal. They're going to need the cap space to do that one. So yes, getting a deal done with Lamar soon would be important.
It wasn't quite Josh Allen sitting in on the head coaching interviews, but Lamar Jackson was very involved in the process, meeting with a bunch of different head coaching candidates, which certainly would seem to speak to how highly they value his opinions of all things happening in the organization, Judy.
Let's turn to the Tennessee Titans. We saw some great things, great moments out of rookie quarterback Cam Ward. Well, there is a whole lot of new in Tennessee now, a new head coach. He's going to have a new offensive coordinator. They've got a whole lot of money to spend this offseason, so there could be a whole lot of new guys on the roster. Here's Robert Saleh, caught up with him today. Robert, welcome back. Good to see you back as a head coach. You had the 1 year as a defensive coordinator in between. What did you learn? You had a year to reflect. Like, what might you do differently that maybe you didn't do with the Jets that you've learned about since then?
Obviously, and I feel redundant, but there's no handbook for first time in any profession. I'll bring the question back to you. Like, I'm sure you look back at your first day on the job and you probably laugh at some of the things that you did, and you've evolved so much that you're obviously more prepared now than you ever were. And kind of in that same mold, there's a lot of things that I learned. I'm more prepared now than I ever was, and there's things that from my Jets tenure that I'm so appreciative of, and I felt like we did really well. There's things that I'm going to leave behind, and obviously there's things that I'm still going to continue to grow from. So, to get specific with a list would be a disservice, but I can assure you that, just going through that experience, there was a lot of things that were learned and a lot of things that we'll continue to grow from.
You are in a pretty good spot now because your team has a whole lot of salary cap space. You've got a high draft pick. So you can really look at the offseason and do an awful lot if you want to turn over the roster. When you look at the landscape and look at where your team is right now, what are your priorities going into the offseason?
You know what? It's an exciting opportunity. Obviously, it's a blank canvas. We're really excited about Cam and his development and what what we think he can turn into. And we've got tremendous support from ownership, and obviously Mark Borgonzi's fantastic at his job with him and his staff, and feel great about the staff that we put together. It's really just attacking day to day and just trying to find ways to get better, both one from a schematic standpoint, obviously from a personnel standpoint, and just the way we operate day to day, just finding ways to get better and to bring ourselves into the upper echelon of the NFL.
Are there areas of the roster you're particularly focused on that you think need to be worked on?
No, you know what? It's you have your general ideas, but just like the players learning us, we're going to be learning our players. So really excited to get these guys in April and just learn from one another, learn what we have as they continue to learn the system, and learning the things that we need to do to tweak our systems to put our players in the best positions possible. But we're always going to look at every single position, every facet of our organization, whether it's players, whether it's how we operate. It doesn't matter. We're going to try to find ways to get better. So to pinpoint it to one part of the ball or one position I'd be lying to you.
You said you're really excited about Cam and developing him into everything he can be. What can he be?
He can be as good as he wants to be. I think anybody can. I think when you look at a guy like Cam, and again, I've only had a couple months of exposure to him. He is a relentless worker. The game is obviously very, very important to him. He's such an authentic person. I just find it hard to believe that people with that mental makeup fail. A guy like him that finds value in work, they usually find success. And so just, again, he's another one of the guys, just like the rest of the 90-man roster as we build it. Just excited to get to work with him and see where he can take it.
We saw this season a number of teams with first-year head coaches turn things around very quickly, make it to the playoffs. In the case of the Patriots, make it all the way to the Super Bowl. Are there things that you saw those teams do, or maybe commonalities among those teams that can apply to the Titans situation, that you can get this turned very quickly?
Yeah, there's the one common denominator I would say with all of them. You take the energy from OTAs and training camp, and you have that immediate success early in the season, and it's amazing what confidence does for you. And I'll speak specifically. Jacksonville, Chicago, New England all started pretty darn good, and you get on those runs and you're winning those 1-point games, and you just get more and more confident, especially later into the season when half the team is kind of realizing that their season's over. So the commonality to all of it. Now, how they constructed those rosters, all very different. Chicago, for the most part, they were able to survive a storm of injuries on defense, and they had an offense that got better and better every single week. Jacksonville, they leaned into their defense as the offense got better every single week, and then New England just all around just had a really, really a damn good season. And we'll build this thing the best we can. We're going to bring a lot of juice, a lot of energy, and and I'm confident that if we find some early success, it could parlay into something special. But at the same time, I say that, and I also say that the first couple of weeks won't matter. It's about getting better. That's the old cliche. But you look for commonalities. It's taken the momentum that you've had as just the freshness of a new staff and all that, parlaying into early success and gaining confidence and taking it through the season.
All right, we're going to be watching for that fast start.
Oh, yeah, God willing.
Thanks,
God
Robert.
willing. Thank
Good
you
to
so
see
much. Yes, ma'am.
Robert Saleh hoping to end the recent struggles in Tennessee. There were some struggles in Detroit last season. Tom caught up with Brad Holmes as we roll on from the scouting combine with the insiders.
Who's the number one edge rusher in this draft? Is it Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan?
The all-time single-season sack leader for the Wolverines.
Aiden Hutchinson came here to compete.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Full charge.
Oh, he's definitely a plug-and-play guy, and he brings an electric game with him. One of the best players Michigan's ever seen on defense.
Endlich ist es soweit. Wir haben ein Spiel zu Hause, ein Spiel in München, ein Dream come true. Lions fans, wir sind hier. Let's go.
Pro Bowl receiver and they hope effective translator. The Lions are headed to Munich. I caught up with GM Brad Holmes earlier today. Well, Brad, obvious first question for you. How's your German?
Not as good as St. Brown's German. So, but no. Look, I think it's going to be a very exciting time. We obviously have not had an international game since our regime has been here in 21. So I kind of figured that it was coming soon. But I couldn't be more excited about it. It's somewhere where I've never been before. But I was just like I had reference St. Brown and his roots. I'm sure that he's extremely excited. But looking forward to it.
So you've had about 6 weeks to unpack a season for a Lions team that had been on the ascent.
Yep.
That had been right there, and then this year, obviously, I think on any level is going to be a disappointment.
Yep.
As you've unpacked things and figured out how you press forward, what are the key points, the things you feel like you need to address to get everybody back on track?
Yeah, look, man, you never want to just go back and just because that you were doing something, it's like, well, it didn't happen this year, so let's go back. It's like, no, you actually got to continue to evolve and move forward. So those are really the long discussions that we've had internally of really just looking at everything top down and just seeing like these are the tweaks and changes that we need to make, and we've already identified quite a bit of them already, but now it's just implementing them, get them in motion. But yeah, we just got to find out how can we get back to playing more consistent football, because the one thing that we did identify, this is not like the sky's falling, wholesale, deep surgery, but there are things that we do need to tweak, and I think we've already got some of them in motion.
The coaching staff is certainly a part of that on offense. You bring in Drew Petzing as the OC, Mike Kafka, guys who have called plays in the league, can be additive. However, everything ends up working out in terms of the actual play calling here. What, if anything, excites you about the way that staff's been constructed and how it can fit with a pretty talented group on that side of the ball?
Yeah, look, and that was really the cool thing, is that to get a guy like Drew Petzing, that kind of checked every single box that we were looking for, but also like keep the continuity. Obviously, as long as Dan is heading the ship in terms of the staff in general, I think that's always going to be a bonus and make sure that the message stays the same and stays consistent. But look, to keep majority of the offensive staff intact and still bring in a Petzing, still bring in a Kafka, really, I don't think Jared Goff will have to learn a whole new language and all that. But obviously, it's Petzing's show, So, but I'm really excited of what he's going to add, because he really did check all the boxes, but still allowed to keep that same continuity.
You've had a good problem in recent years, which is a lot of really talented young players that you got to pay a lot of money for.
Yep.
Now you got Gibbs, Branch, Laporta, Campbell.
Yep.
Where do you start with that? And specifically on Gibbs, knowing the type of market he might have, what's the timeline on trying to get some of those things done?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is this. We want Gibbs here for a long time. He's truly a centerpiece of our offense, of our team. So that's really the main thing. In terms of timeline, that's still fluid. We'll have talks with his representation starting this week. Just to kind of get a gauge in terms of what that timeline looks like going forward. But he's one that he's earned what he's going to get, obviously, because he's been a great player. We want to keep him around.
So last thing for you got about 8 weeks here till the draft. You've done this thing a few times now. What do these final 8 weeks entail for you in terms of all the information that your area scouts have already gathered, the pre-combine meetings, and then trying to hone in on those guys? Because you guys have done a good job of identifying these guys are Detroit Lions.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But that's a really good question, because I would just someone just asked me kind of a certain position group if that's a strength this year, and in the past I've been a little bit more liberal in answering that. It was like, oh yeah, this unit looks stronger, this unit, but really I really don't want to say that anymore, because of all the work that entails from this point all the way for the next 8 weeks. That thing could change. So a position group that you might say, man, this looks pretty good. Well, so many times that we're in April and mid-April and we're like, remember saying that this is a strong group back near the combine? And then it's like, yeah, we were, but so much stuff happens where, and a lot of that information, or the reason why that landscape changes, is it's not public information, but it can change quickly. So that's a really good question, but that's happened very often.
Great seeing you, Brad. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
And that's why you come to Indianapolis, to continue gathering that information and also to see some weird neon dancing
Those
silhouettes.
things are very weird.
I don't know what that is or where it is, but I'll find out after the show. We got a lot more to come
further
first.
uptown.
With the insiders at the Combine, alongside Ian Rappaport, Mike Garafolo, Ginny Batista, I am Tom Pelissero. We are less than 48 hours away. Right down there, not a green screen. We are really inside Lucas Oil Stadium from these drills getting underway. Most of the top prospects set to compete in positional drills starting on Thursday. One guy who will not is the one who everyone already assumes is pretty much locked in to go number 1 overall to the Raiders. That is quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Just led Indiana to the national championship, won the Heisman Trophy, and certainly seems to have the eyes of the people in Las Vegas, one of whom GM John Spytek talked today about his philosophy on drafting young QBs.
I think you want to have as much pressure, or limit the amount of pressure you have on that guy from the start. Now, if you have a young quarterback, I'm not necessarily in favor of running him out there right away either. So, another quality player that can play the quarterback position if you have a young quarterback, and obviously a great offensive line, a run game, all the things that can limit his chances to really get killed, and a great defense too, because if he doesn't feel like he's got to go out there and score 35 points every week, I think that's helpful.
Check out Bucky Brooks' top 10 prospects in this year's draft. You just saw David Bailey. He is here in Indianapolis. Arvell Reese. Bucky's got him set in his mock draft going number 4 to the Titans. He's going to compete in the positional drills. How about a running back in the top 10 with Jeremiah Love going to the Saints? He's also going to do position drills out here. You can see the full mock draft at NFL.com/mock drafts. Travis Kelce was not in anyone's mock draft some years ago. Ended up being one of the greatest third-round draft picks of all time. Now, after a lot of success, Super Bowl rings, All-Pro honors, mulling his future, it's clear where GM Brett Veach stands.
Yeah, I think we've kind of taken a different approach with Travis in the sense that I think, we've kind of prepared for either scenario. And Coach had mentioned on Friday, he's had great dialogue with Travis on our end, myself, Crochet, Travis's crew. We've had some good dialogue there. And I'm sure we're going to see him here just like we will all the other players' agents, and we'll continue that dialogue. But Travis is the best. He's an icon, and hopefully he comes back, and we'll just kind of let that process play out.
Brett Veach echoing sort of the words of Andy Reid earlier this week, not speaking in really clear terms. Ian, what's your understanding of where things stand right now with Travis Kelce?
That was really what struck me about the words of General Manager Brett Veach. I think it's pretty clear, and Andy Reid has said it, Brett Veach has said it, the Chiefs would like Travis Kelce back. There's some things they have to work out. There's some cap space they need to clear. I would keep an eye on Jawan Taylor as a potential cap casualty, a likely cap casualty for the Kansas City Chiefs to create some space. It's the first time that Brett Veach, I would say, seemed to keep it open-ended. Like, they want him back, but they want to respect Travis Kelce's decision, and we really did not get any indication like, okay, he's definitely coming back. We just need to work out a deal. They would like to work out a deal. They would like to have him back, but they also want to make sure that if Kelce returns, he is fully 100% committed. He played great last year, certainly his best year in a couple. He knows he can do it. Also has significant off-the-field opportunities to make a ton of money. I wonder if that factors into it. We are still,
Really?
He's got a podcast.
Oh, the podcast.
Taylor Swift was on it.
What I noted today was the difference in the language today compared to last year at this time. When we were at the Combine last year at this time, it was much more definitive. It was clear that he was coming back. That was not the language that was used today. This sounds a lot more open-ended, and that they are prepared in Kansas City for really any outcome of this. Let's face it, whatever the outcome is, they clearly want him back, but they also have to get much more explosive on that offense.
Yeah.
And, of course, the big question hanging over all of this is, even if Travis Kelce comes back, even if they get a whole lot of weapons, like, when is Patrick Mahomes going to be back on the field to throw to those guys?
Yeah, some folks, some talent evaluators, even not necessarily affiliated with teams, just kind of independent folks that thought, well, he's done. He doesn't have much left. I don't get the sense that the Chiefs believe that at all. I mean, the Chiefs think it's not the same kind of style of play, same game-breaking type player that he was a couple of years ago, but they feel like he's got plenty left and that they've got ways to employ him in that offense, certainly with Eric Bieniemy back as well, a guy that he's going to be familiar with as well. So, some of this is what Travis wants to do, and it's why it's going to be a little bit open-ended for a while until we get a decision on both ends of this time.
It is apparent if Travis Kelce is going to play in 2026, it will be in Kansas City. Maybe not quite the same deal with Mike Evans and the Bucs.
From one future Hall of Famer who may or not be re-signing with his team, but now to another, Mike Evans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have learned from his agent, Derek Gilmore, and friend of the Insiders, Derek Gilmore, likes to send us quotes that he is going to be back in 2026. We just don't know if it's with the Bucs. Is it Jason Light?
Yeah, we'll have a lot of conversations with him. We have a very open line of communication with his agent and his agents, and also with Mike.
Have those communications had a different tenor than past off seasons when he's been a free agent?
No, I would say we're have the same open lines, same discussions. I talk to Mike. He's earned the right to do this and to do what's best for him, and he knows that we'd love to have him back.
Meanwhile, Browns general manager Andrew Berry asked what he wants to see from Shedeur Sanders in year number 2. He said continued growth. He learned a lot from start 1 to start 7. Wants him to keep the ball out of harm's way, so cut down on turnovers and potential turnovers, but also be explosive and continue to work on his body physically as well. So, does all that mean that they expect Shedeur Sanders to be the starter in 2026? Not necessarily. Here's Berry.
You know what? Right now, it's February 24th? Thank you. I appreciate it, Scott. So, we don't have to make that decision anytime soon. I think any player that we have in that room, we would expect to compete to earn a role. Those two would be no different.
Well, there's no question about who would be the starting quarterback in Pittsburgh if he chooses to play again this season. Aaron Rodgers, it's been like an hour since we've discussed him, so it's time for us to mention him again. They are waiting on a decision from Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. Here is General Manager Omar Khan. Omar, I have to ask you the most obvious question. Where do things stand with Aaron Rodgers and a decision, and what's the timeline?
Good to see you, Judy.
Good to see you.
So, we've been in communication with Aaron. I've talked to him recently, and he knows how we feel about him. The door's open, and I wouldn't say there's necessarily a timeline, but I don't expect this to go like it was last year. I think we're going to have an answer sooner than later, probably.
By free agency?
It's fluid. I'll just say that. I don't expect this to be like it was last year.
You have Will Howard, and you like him. Do you have to go into this draft thinking you have to get another quarterback, or are you comfortable trying to see what you got with Will Howard this year?
So we think very highly of Will. We liked him coming out last year, and to be honest with you, we watched Mike McCarthy and I have taken the time. We watched his practice tape and see how he's grown. Obviously, we didn't get the chance to see him play in the preseason or in a game this year, so a little bit of an unknown. But he's excited to work with him, and we think very highly of Will. So, specific to that position in the draft, we'll evaluate everything. But no, we're not going into this saying we have to take a quarterback.
This was obviously an off season already of a lot of change, which is sort of unusual for the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you take a step back, you've gotten to a certain point for a long time. When you take a step back, what has to happen for you to get to the next step?
Yeah, I mean, overall, we have to be better everywhere. I mean, we made the playoffs back-to-back years, and we didn't win a game. That's not good enough. So we've had like we do every year. We've evaluated everything we do and try to improve, and we just have to keep fighting because we know we have the people in place to get to where we want to get to.
Do you feel like you have to come out of this offseason, this draft, maybe with a top-level wide receiver?
I'd say we're evaluating every position group, and we're trying to get better at every position group.
Do you expect Jalen Ramsey to still be a Pittsburgh Steeler when this season starts?
Jalen's great. I mean, I know this coaching staff's excited to work with him, and I can't say enough about Jalen and his approach to the game and how good of a teammate he's been, and he works hard. And I love his versatility. Last year, early in the year, we asked him to switch to the free safety position, and he did it. He hadn't practiced it, and I think we'll have a decision about where on the field he's going to play this year, but I know this coaching staff's excited to work with him.
So he will be a Pittsburgh Steeler somewhere on the field.
Yeah.
When you look at the organization as a whole, how does Mike McCarthy fit in? It was a departure of a hire from what this team has traditionally done 50 years. Why does he fit?
So we had a very open mind when we went into this process. We did cast a wide net, and we went through it. He just realized that he was the right fit for us. We interviewed some really excellent candidates. I'm confident in saying that most, if not all, those guys are going to be head coaches at some point. But as we evaluated and went through it, with where we are as an organization right now, he was the right decision for us.
Great. Omar, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Good to
Always
see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Yep, thanks.
Kenneth Walker just won the Super Bowl MVP, but will he be back in Seattle for the title defense? Hear from GM John Schneider on that and a lot more coming up right after this on the Insiders at the Combine. The NFL Combine presented by Microsoft Copilot, where a dream that starts small can get big and a name that's unknown can become the future. Next is here, the 2026 NFL Combine, February 26th through March 1st on NFL Network and streaming with NFL Plus. Subscription required for NFL Plus. Visit plus.nfl.com for terms. TNF and Prime Video's analytics expert Sam Schwartzstein stopped by. Sam, let's talk about how some of these analytics actually apply to the things that we see out here in terms of the drills and the testing. You almost never, unless something really bad happens, see an offensive lineman run 40 yards in a line in a game. How, if at all, does the 40-yard dash for O-linemen actually translate to real things of football?
Yeah, it's like, why do we not just run the 10 or get them in a normal stance and watch a football drill? Well, the 40, we have historical data on it, and it allows us to actually see how healthy that offensive tackle is. If you're able to run a 4.85 or a 4.9 under 5 seconds at over 300 pounds, that tells you a lot about this lineman's ability to stay in the game. Best ability is availability. That's what we see with Tristan Wirfs. He ran a 4.85 at 320. Being able to do that means you have great hip mobility, you have great agility that's going to keep you in the game. He's played over 90% of his available snaps, multiple Pro Bowls, and that's the kind of thing that you want to see out of offensive tackles. So, yeah, it's not necessarily about the drill, but what the drill tells us about that player.
A lot of times, too, one of the takeaways is always one of these defensive ends, these edge guys, literally jump out of the roof, right? The vertical jump, and all of a sudden you go, that guy's an unbelievable athlete. How does that translate?
Yeah, you're looking at what can a guy do out of a standstill, and that's what every defensive play starts with for these edge rushers is when they're in a standstill, how can they explode off the ball? And the number one indicator you're going to get a sack is your takeoff time. And Myles Garrett has been the preeminent takeoff time, meaning how fast he's getting off across the line of scrimmage. And his ability to do that comes from his vertical jump and his broad jump. Those jumping abilities that really measure what are you doing from that standstill. They measure that initial explosion, which is the entire battle in the offensive line versus defensive line drill.
Bench press is one area that's kind of been isolated in recent years from all the rest of the drills here. Is there a position where those results still matter, good or bad?
You know, we used to love it in college. It was actually one of my better drills. I got to 29 reps.
There we go. You want to brag about it? There it is. Yeah.
But no, it's the mental issue that I couldn't get to 30. It was always 29. So that was the issue. But for tight ends, you used to see these are offensive linemen that could also run routes. And we saw that. There was over 80% participation years ago for tight ends in bench press. Now only 29%, since 2020, only 29% of tight ends actually participate in the bench press. They're wide receivers who may be able to block like an offensive lineman. So whether you're participating in the bench press, that tells you what this player has ability to do. So those tight ends that are willing to step up to the plate and bench means they're also the ones that are likely to step up and block somebody. So your participation, as participation has gone down in the major drills, now we're seeing what that says about you as a player if you are participating in the drill.
Real quick, what percent of these tight ends could you outbench right now?
I probably, right now, none of them. all that dude bouncing off my chest got me arthritis in my shoulder, so none of them.
Sam, thank you.
Nope. No, don't let him fool you. Sam Schwartz can still throw up some iron, Ian Rappaport. Kenneth Walker, he can throw up some iron. He can do a lot of things. It made him the Super Bowl MVP. Now it's time to pay him. Could there be a franchise tag or a transition tag in his future? Let's ask Seahawks general manager John Schneider, who's definitely going to answer that question.
No, we'd love to have Ken back. You know, it's and he knows this better than anybody. It's about our 70, you know, and our collective and what that's going to look like. And you know, we'll have those meetings down here where we'll start, you know, talking to all the agents and yeah, we'll have a better feel where we're going here towards the end of the week. But obviously, we'd love to have everybody. We want to have everybody back. You know, right when you get done with something special like that, you're like, hey, let's run it back. You know, it's gonna be an interesting process.
Have you ruled out the tag, or is that always a potential option, or what's the?
That's a good try, Bob. Like, God dang, I couldn't hear you.
He did not answer the question, Ian.
He did not. Will Monty Ossenford answer the question about Kyler Murray, one of the more interesting quarterbacks heading into free agency, despite the fact that he is not actually a free agent? Kyler Murray's status is certainly something up for debate. Let's let the Cardinals general manager weigh in.
I know a lot of you are going to be on top of your mind is our quarterback situation. So, you know, here's what I would say is I've said before, I'd say all options are on the table for us, okay? We got Kyler, Jacoby, Keaton, all under contract. As it pertains to that position, as it pertains to every position on our team, we're going to look at every avenue to improve, and we're going to continue and go through our process with that.
Bump in here.
Monty Ossenford couldn't be happier to answer questions. Obviously, something he enjoys greatly.
The head tilt to the side. I'm going to answer this before.
You know what Brandon Bean likes? He likes to talk to our Judy Batista, which he did.
So do I.
About Josh Allen, who's right there. Coming up on the
next.
It's Josh Allen now.
Now watch the big guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 steps. He got 10 yards. And Allen just rips it.
I think he's doing a good job out here. He's throwing the ball accurately on throws that should be accurate. That's what he does. Just effortless, man.
4.76.
I have no doubt he can throw this ball 80, 90 yards. There's a good throw.
That went from the 10-yard line to the opposite 30.
He's showing off a little bit.
And I don't blame him.
Man, I remember the gasps in the stadium when he unleashed that ball during the scouting combine. It's a long way from there. This is very sad, Josh Allen, after the playoff loss this season, and very sad Josh Allen got a big change in Buffalo. I checked in with Brandon Bean, their general manager, today on all the changes this offseason in Buffalo. Brandon, good to see you. The season's been over for a little while now, a few weeks. You've had some time to take a breath. You obviously made a coaching change. When you reflect on last season, why did it end the way it ended?
Yeah, great question, Judy. I mean, ultimately, they made one more play than we did, and that's generally what comes down to. You work to earn that, you know, that ticket to the dance, which is, you know, season 2 of the playoffs, and but ultimately you got to play your best football in those games. And you know, unfortunately, I think in that Denver game we had some turnovers, and we still had some chances to make. And you know, people talk about the catch no catch or whatever. That is what it is. Like, ultimately, the year before we lost in Kansas City on there was the sneak a first down, but there are other plays in games that it comes down to, so I try not to focus on that. And ultimately, we as a collective team, we didn't make quite enough plays to get this thing over the top, and that's what we're trying to do now, is to make sure that as we build this 2026 iteration of the Buffalo Bills, that this team will make those plays when the opportunity's there.
Terry Pagula made it clear it is Super Bowl or bust, right? You've got Josh Allen, you've got that piece. When you have to put pieces around a player like Josh Allen, we on the outside can look at it and say, like, well, this is what they need. What do you need? What do you think that this team needs this offseason?
You know, Judy, great question, and I'm going to give you an answer, non-answer here is we need good football players. And one of the ways I say that is people say, well, you need wide receivers, you need O-line. First off, I always believe it starts up front. you have to have a quarterback. You got to protect the quarterback, and you got to get after the other team's quarterback. Beyond that, a player on defense can help you get Josh Allen one more possession. What we want to do, and it sounds simple, is obviously give Josh as many possessions, score as many points, and how quickly can we get the ball back to him. One of the things that we didn't do well this year was stop the run. And so, well, you say that, what does that mean? Well, that means people are possessing the ball, and number 17 is sitting on the sideline, not being able to affect the game. So sometimes it can just be a player that can help your defense stop the run a little bit better. And I think we were 30th. We don't need to go to first, but if we can cut that down in half, 15th to 20th, that may be, one more possession a game or a half a possession a game.
Is it imperative that you come out of either the draft or free agency or both with a top-level wide receiver?
It's not imperative. It's really about making sure we have the best unit. I'm always talking about like playmakers. Like, what is that playmaker? Is that a running back? Is that a tight end? Is that a wide receiver? Whatever that is that can help us. Sometimes those are guys that you get the ball to underneath, and they're one of the best rack players. And so there's different ways to it. Maybe it's a vertical receiver, a mismatch. We're always trying to say what players can give a defense fit, and how many mismatches can we get on the field at a certain time. And so I wouldn't want to say that can be a receiver, and I know that's the natural thing, but I wouldn't want to sit here and say if we don't get this level of wide receiver that we don't have an opportunity to go where we need to go.
You have a new coach in Joe Brady. We all know that head coaches will always say, like that first year, there's stuff that comes at them that they had no idea was going to cross their desk. What do you have to do to support Joe Brady? Because this is a team built to win now. So what do you have to do to support Joe Brady in this first year?
Yeah, I think the first thing was Joe made an excellent hire in hiring John Fox, who's been a 16-year head coach and coaching a couple Super Bowls. And John's been here a couple of weeks now, and obviously I worked under John as a young guy and know all about him. But those two have already had a nice connection, and so there's not a lot that John hasn't seen or come across his desk. And that's when I was doing the coaching interview process. One of the guys we interviewed said, if I had it to do over again, I would hire someone on staff that had been a former head coach. And so I've heard that. It was restated again. And so but the thing about Joe is Joe already had that in his mind, and so we started talking about names, and I introduced him and John, and they kind of went on their own and connected. And so I think having things in place, obviously, I know some of the things that will hit him, and we all have to do this together and support him. But Joe's a great listener. It's one of the many positive traits that he has. He's a very high energy, positive guy, but he has an excellent ability to listen, and I think that is key, especially the first time through something.
What's Josh been like these last few weeks since all of these changes?
Yeah, Josh. Josh was obviously a part of the interview process, and he did a great job in it. Like, if you didn't know that was Josh Allen over there, if you were coming from somewhere else, you've been under a rock for the last 8 years, you would be like, man, that guy didn't say a lot, but when he did, he asked some really good questions, took a ton of notes. But he's been great. He had his foot fixed, and so he's out of his boot now, and he's out in California. His wife's got a baby coming up, and so that's been his focus. But we talk a lot, and I'm never afraid to get on the phone and ask his thoughts on something about our team, or if he's seen or if he knows this player somewhere, or he runs across them, and that will continue.
Great. Brandon, thanks so much.
Thanks,
Good to
Judy.
see you.
Yeah, you too.
3 seasons, 3 playoff appearances for C.J. Stroud, though the latest one did not end the way he or anyone else in Houston wanted it to. That has led to some level of rumblings about Stroud's future. Could he be traded? And Nick Sirianni, well, I'll let him tell you himself what he thinks of that.
He's our quarterback. He ain't going anywhere. We have a lot of confidence, a lot of belief. I mean, I'd say the philosophy that D'Amico and I have, we're going to support our players and do everything we can to kind of help them. And this league's about ups and downs. I mean, nothing's perfect. I mean, there's no team that's undefeated unless I miss something this year. So that's not going to happen. By and large, we're probably going to lose 5 or 6 games. Going to be some margin on either side. You're going to have some good plays, you're going to have some bad plays, you're going to have some good games, you're going to have some bad games. Okay, how do you bounce back? How do you handle that? So it's just, I mean, this league is a one game at a time proposition, and how you handle it, every situation, ultimately is going to determine your success and your longevity. So no loss. I mean, look, the stock market's been going down for 5 days, so everybody's probably panic selling. So, you know, really what you should do is you be investing more. So, but anyways, we have a lot of confidence in CJ. We got a lot of confidence in our players, and I'm glad he's our quarterback.
At all.
I would say a pretty strong endorsement right there of Nick Sirianni for his quarterback, if not the NASDAQ right now, which I think everybody is feeling a little bit. The real question, though, here becomes this, Ian. If indeed C.J. Stroud is going to be the quarterback, when or if they pay him on the type of contract that you would think a quarterback who takes you to the playoffs every year is supposed to get.
Yeah, and the quarterback who's the team leader, who has done it right, who, as Nick Sirianni said, has bounced back and responded to every situation in as positive a way as possible. He's out in California now, working on his game, honing his game, and trying to get back to the level of play that he had as a rookie, and certainly at times last year as well. You're right. The question really isn't, is C.J. Stroud going to be the Houston Texans quarterback? He is. It's, is he going to be the elite franchise guy that you have literally no choice but to pay? And the fact that they don't have a firm 100% answer, the fact that the contract extension might wait until next year, that is okay, because what we've learned, including from Sam Darnold, who just won the Super Bowl, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for a quarterback to figure out what they are and what we are going to see. And I think for C.J. Stroud, that is what is on him this offseason, to see how good he can be.
You come to Indianapolis knowing that the general managers and head coaches are going to become available, and you've got this bingo card of things that are going to be addressed. Max Crosby, A.J. Brown, they would have been on my bingo card. C.J. Stroud, I mean, I don't even know what these trade rules, I don't know. I mean, I know everything is talked about and suggested at some point by somebody, because there's just so many voices, and even the fans have voices, and everybody's got voices, but I don't know that this was anything that I had a discussion about with anybody, and I came away saying, should I have? Because I do understand, and I do believe, and I do know that the Texans believe he's got to play better. They understand that part of it, and what can they do to help him play better in 2026? But I never got the sense that any trade rumors were possible, and Nick Sirianni, I would say, putting it to bed. I don't even know if it was awake, Judy.
Yeah, I would be curious what the genesis of that question is. I don't know where it came from. Having said that, he does have to play better. I mean, he had, and the expectations were so high because the rookie season was so impressive. He was the offensive rookie of the year, and it just has not gotten back to that level. He did show flashes of it this season, but look, the lingering memory is going to be that meltdown in the playoff game. They have to spend the offseason. He has to spend the offseason examining why he cannot get back to that high level of consistent play, and they have to examine as an organization what they need to put around him, what they need to do to support him, to get him back close to that level of play, and more importantly, consistent level of play.
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate on this. The reason that any type of those rumors would exist is this. There are somewhere between 7 to 10 teams that we don't know who their starting quarterback is going to be in 2026. There's not a lot out there in free agency. Malik Willis might get paid more than anybody wants to pay him. You're now looking at a bunch of guys who might get cut. Right. It's not a really strong draft. In other words, if you've got a quarterback who has played at a high enough level, but that the Texans, who know him better than anyone, might be considering, do we pay him? Do we go down that road, or do we reset? It makes sense to call and inquire. Up until that moment, when you sign a new contract that locks the player in for the long haul, that's exactly the type of player that another team would potentially target. Still more to come here on the Insiders from the Combine, at the Combine, I should say. In the not-too-distant future, we'll be walking down that street to go get a good steak. For now, more of the show next. All signs continue to point to a divorce coming for Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins, with new GM John Eric Sullivan today saying that everything is on the table, including the possibility of a trade. I got a chance to speak a little bit more with Sullivan. Sully, it's been nonstop go for you for a couple of months here, from Packers playoff appearance to getting the job, to the head coaching search, the assistant coaching search, and the draft prep. Have you gotten a chance to look around and take a breath yet and go, I'm the GM of the Miami Dolphins?
You know what? It's been fast and furious. It's all been really good. It's been educational.
I actually got this past weekend. I snuck home on Friday and kind of got to unplug for 2 days with my kids for 48 hours. It was nice to kind of sit back and reflect on what has been, kind of where we're at, where I'm at. But it's been a lot of really, really good. Very, very impressed with the Dolphins, who they have in the building. Great support staff. We just got done with draft meetings. All went really smooth. So very happy and excited about where we are.
Also nice to get back to Green Bay, feel that weather one more time, and then go, I now live in Miami.
I will say this. Listen, I will miss the organization. I will miss the people. It's a good trade in terms of weather. It's been very nice to walk around the practice fields at lunch, return phone calls. It's 75 and sunny. I'll take it.
You said up at the podium, all options are on the table when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa, including a trade.
Sure.
You've spoken to teams, I'm sure, at this point. Sure. What's your level of confidence, if any, that a trade, given the circumstances, will actually happen?
Sure. I mean, I think anytime there's a quarterback in play, you have a chance, right? It's the most important position in professional sports. Tua's accomplished a lot in this league. He's been a good player in this league. I think that's intriguing to teams. Who's to say where it'll go? We've had some productive conversations. We'll kind of see how it plays itself out. But I do think anytime you have a quarterback in play who's been successful in the league, it gives you a chance.
You came up in Green Bay and you know how the entire lineage of that organization has been, not just having starting quarterbacks, but having backup quarterbacks and having depth of the position. You got Quinn Ewers in the building.
Sure.
You potentially could draft one, you could sign one, you could trade for one yourself. What is your personal philosophy on how you need to construct that room, not just for 2026, but in the big picture?
Yeah, I think the main thing the main speaking point here is competition. Yeah. We have to infuse competition into that room. And what that looks like, I can't sit here and tell you today. We could sign a free agent. We could draft one. We could draft two. The important thing for me to do is to infuse competition into that room this year, next year, until we find our long-term solution that we can chase championships with.
You saw one guy that you had in the building last year in Green Bay, Malik Willis, play pretty good when he got his opportunity. Do you have to, on any level, guard against the over-evaluation you may have done in terms of your own eyeballs, seeing that guy every day, relative to all these other players you have relatively limited exposure to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's human nature, right? It's recency bias. You have to fight against it. Look, I said back there, and I'll say again, I have tremendous amount of respect for Malik Willis. I have a lot of like for him personally. He's a great kid. I'm very happy that he's in the position that he's in. It's a testament to him and how he played when he got his opportunities. What that looks like for the Miami Dolphins, I can't tell you. We may sign a free agent, maybe Malik, maybe one of numerous other guys. There's obviously a salary cap implication that we're in a tough spot. Malik, my gut tells me he will not be cheap. So there's a lot of things that we have to work through. Again, tremendous amount of respect for Malik, and happy that he's in the situation he's in. How that looks for the Miami Dolphins, who's to say?
Anytime that you come in as a new GM, your odds are you're taking over a franchise that has not been in the playoffs. In the case of the Dolphins, has not won a playoff game in literally decades. You want to build this the right way, but how do you balance the appetite, especially among your fan base? We've got to win games. We've got to get back there versus setting this up the right way over the next, however you look at the windows, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think everything we do has to be, discipline and long-term vision has to be at the forefront. We can't be swayed by emotion. We can't be swayed by pressure, external or internal. We have to do the right things by the Miami Dolphins, and I don't think that you can make decisions that allow you to just check a box and sleep good at night if it's not good for the long-term health and vision of the team.
There were a couple of guys on the team now who there were trade calls about last year. The Dolphins got offered a first-round pick and more for Jalen Waddle. There were calls about Devon Achane. I know you don't want to have a lot of sacred cows. You said it up there. Everybody has a certain price. Are those two guys, though, that you envision being a part of the Dolphins moving forward?
I do. You never say never, but those are marvelous football players. They're difference makers. They're good guys in the locker room. Those are guys that I envision being here for the long-term future. Again, you never say never, but I do want those guys to be part of the football team, the Miami Dolphins. I think they're guys that you can build around and they help you win football games.
I know you haven't played a game yet, but Jeff Hafley, first month on the job, what do you think?
Sharp. Jeff's got great energy. He's sharp. He's a great football mind. He's a great guy to go to work with every day. I trust him explicitly. So I'm really happy with who we have as our head coach.
The last thing for you, you've come to the Combine for I don't know how many years now.
It'll be 23.
23 years. But this is the first time you're going to be the one actually picking that player. What type of preparation are you going to do over the next couple of months, whether it's mock drafts, simulating the process, to make sure when it comes to it and it's time that you're ready to answer the bell?
That's a great question. And you know what the kind of the peace of mind that I have is the process that I come from. I'm not going to do anything different than what I've done for the last 22 years. I'm just sitting in a different chair. That process will have me prepared and ready to go when it comes time to pick them. And I have a lot of confidence and peace of mind in saying that.
Have fun down here, man. Good to see you.
Hey, great to see you, Tom.
Can somebody plug me in?